So the next thing that we're going to talk about is taking care of the instruments themselves. The general just principle behind this really is to just be gentle. It's so easy to cause damage, so be very gentle with your instruments. There's quite a bit of moving parts on the instrument. You've got this right here that is the bridge. Inside you have the sounding post, you have the pegs, you have just so many things that can get shifted and moved out of place. And when we shift or move things out of place, what happens is it's just generally harder to get a good sound out of your instrument. Be careful that we don't put excess pressure on the bridge. Inside the case, anything that pushes a lot on the bridge will cause some problems. So if you've got a cello or a bass with a soft case, just be careful. Never lay it down flat, right? And be careful that anything that could be pushing up against that bridge is out of the way, so we don't have any issues with your bridge. The other thing for violins and violas is often we play with a shoulder rest. And that shoulder rest is great for playing. However, inside the case, instead of sitting flat like this, it actually tilts it like that, right? And so when the case closes, then it puts pressure on the bridge again. So because this is mostly made out of wood, we want to avoid some of the extremes in weather. We want to avoid heat and cold, as well as dryness and moistness. And any of those can cause problems to the woods, can cause them to reshape, can cause cracks and other things to happen. If you're cleaning your instrument, always make sure and use a nice soft cloth. I've got some here that's very soft, nice cotton on there. That's going to just keep anything from scratching the varnish on the wood. And yeah, just generally like that. One of the things that we always want to make sure and do is, at least on occasion, that we get rid of the rosin that builds up right underneath the bridge. And that's because that rosin can start to have dust and dirt and grime sticking to it, and we get kind of a dirty finish instead of the nice beautiful finish that we've got normally on our instruments. If you are ever going to clean your instrument, what you want to do is you do want to get some professional violin cleaner or polish, something that's specifically designed for violin or the other string instruments. And that's because the varnish on this has special qualities to it. And to keep the instrument resonating and still vibrating with as good a sound as it can, they do make special polish that's specifically designed for this kind of varnish and this kind of wood. So just make sure if you decide to clean it up, again, using a soft cloth, and if you want to go beyond just your regular cloth, that you use a professional violin cleaner or a polish. Now the next thing I want to talk about are these, which are the strings. And those strings are actually pretty expensive. And so there's a few things we can do to make sure and take good care of our strings here. The first and most important thing is our fingernails. Our fingernails should be trimmed pretty short. You might see a little bit of white extending past, but it's always a good idea to trim them pretty short so your fingers can sit on the string without the fingernail actually digging into that metal. And the only things that really should be touching the string are your bow and your fingers for the most part. Anything hard, anything metal, anything sharp especially, can actually cause damage to the strings, can cause a nick in the string that will actually start to tear apart. Now at the beginning stages for players, we encourage them not to use these, and that's because these pegs require quite a bit of muscle strength and control, and it's so easy to crank a peg and to snap a string. So we just want to be very, very extra careful with the pegs if we ever use them. And again, if you're just very beginning, we would never use these. You'd have a teacher or somebody else help make sure that your instrument's in tune. The other thing that we've got for tuning are down here. Now I've got my professional viola here, so it doesn't have all these fine tuners, but this right here is a fine tuner. And you turn that clockwise. What it does is it pushes down the screw, which then causes this lever to pull back on the string. And that tightens the string up just by a little bit. So you can change the pitch of your string just a little bit at a time, which is why we encourage students, if they are tuning, to use this for tuning instead of the peg. So it does it just a little at a time. One other quick thing, with all of the different precautionary measures for COVID-19, it's important to be sanitizing your instrument, but it's also something that you want to be very cautious with. If you're not sure if something is safe for your instrument, always ask your teacher and just double check. Now, as a general rule for setting up, the first thing that you'll want to do is to get your bow out and get your bow ready and set it somewhere safe. And after that, to grab your instrument. And the safest, best place to grab the instrument is right here at the neck. And that's because it's very sturdy, and so that's the best place for you to hold it. We try not to really hold it from here a lot or from the sides, especially, you know, around the middle. That really we're trying to hold at the neck here because that's the strongest and most secure place that you can hold it. Like the bow, also just be very careful. Don't get it bumped, even inside the case, as best you can help it, because that can cause things to shift and move out of place. If you need to step away from your instrument for a little while, what you can do is you can find a nice flat surface, a nice even surface in which you know that if you leave your instrument, that it's going to sit and it's going to be safe.